From the Student Athlete Ventures studio on the east side of Mountain America Stadium, this is Sun Devil Extra, presented by Spring Hill Suites, Phoenix, Scottsdale. Braiden Bell joined alongside Doug Tammaro, filling in for Graham Rossini this weekend. Yes, he deserves some applause. Our live crowd on hand, giving some applause to Senior Associate Athletic Director Doug Tammaro. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
You are often the man who sets up these shows, along with our very own Sean Crespin, of course. Now you're on the hot seat.
That's right. Yep. Happy to be here.
So let's talk something that just happened over the weekend. We've often called it the best day in the state. In the course of a year. Pat's Run went down over the weekend, and boy, what a success it was again. It was the 21st annual running, over 30,000 people here in Tempe. Just quite the event.
It's the state's greatest day. It really is, and it's quickly becoming a national day. All 50 states were represented. We had over 30,000 people here, 500 volunteers on race day, 800 over the course of the week, 28,000 runners. It's a magnificent event. There's different parts that come in each year. The football team doing the kids run this year. The football team's always been a part of it, but it felt like there was more of a, okay, let's do this year. And the way they embraced it with Kenny, it just all rolled into a fantastic day. We kidded when we started this race. There were a couple things we discussed. One was how many would we do? Would you do 10 of them? And we always kidded, we'll do 42 of them. And now we're halfway home,
right.
So it's kind of wild. And the other thing was, we debated on what to call it. Pat's, because out of 28,000 people, probably 20,000 walk, and we were thinking, should we call it Pat's Walk? But he would have kicked our butt if we had made him walk. So Pat's Run is just, it's one of the greatest things that Arizona State does, and we're really, really proud to have it finish on that 42-yard line.
And the community aspect of it is obviously something that makes it so unique, not only having it around Tempe and the great scenery we have here, but like you said, having it finish inside the football stadium. That's something that it seems to be so fitting.
It's fitting, and what's neat is, we take it for granted because in our business, we go, we're on the football field all the time. When I walk the football office, I walk on the sidelines. The Sun Devil fan or the person in the community that isn't on that football field. So when they finish on that 42-yard line and they're on the big screen, and they're filming themselves crossing the finish line, that's probably one of the greatest days of the year for them.
Oh yeah.
And I know that there's some people that finish that race that are, maybe trying to lose weight or get back in shape or overcoming something. It's a goal. You can tell how important it is to these people, what a great day it is. Because the first thing when the race is over, people say, when is it next year? When is it next year? And, we bounced back from COVID. We did it, remotely for a couple years. Mm-hmm. People kind of wondered, would it come back? How strong would it come back? And it actually came back stronger than ever. So it's just a wonderful day for Arizona State, and it does not happen without Michael Crow 21 years ago buying in. Gene Smith, who was the athletic director then, and of course the athletic director at Ohio State, he trusted us from the beginning with a lot of Pat Tillman things, and they were willing to invest in making sure the legacy of Pat Tillman was carried on, and in that day and that race, it really is.
You mentioned the legacy and obviously how you've been around the planning of this really since day one. Is there ever a moment, let's say Saturday when it went down, where you kind of take it in, you're in disbelief of what it has grown to?
I think the big thing for me is I'm on the finish line with Jeff Munn, and we're up top, and then the people were coming across. And I tell you, the big moment for me was probably about 10 years ago when we punch in numbers and names pop up on the screen. And what we try to do is we try to identify people with binoculars, and we got people looking out, and they'll text us, military guy coming through, firefighter, full gear, and they just give us a heads up, and then we read that person's name. Well, one of the people that we look out for are little kids, or younger kids. And there was a 10-year-old, someone spotted him, and I typed in the name, and his name was Tillman something, last name. And so then, I think after that moment, I was like, damn, like you got parents that have named their kids after Pat, and they are now racing in this race. So that moment to me about 10 years ago was kind of the moment where I thought, damn, this thing's good.
You talk about legacy, you talk about honoring Pat and what he stood for. I think it's like you said, one of the better events, not only here in Arizona, but I would say nationwide in terms of college athletics and giving back to a community. I wanted to get your thoughts from Pat's run on to men's golf, because obviously you're closely tied in there. We just had the Masters, but in terms of Here at a local level, in terms of ASU men's golf, it was quite the weekend just over at Papago, a dominant weekend, 39 under for the team, setting records all around, and one of the better programs in all of Sun Devil athletics. Got to show off at home.
Yeah, I think our men's golf program is sometimes taken for granted because they're so good. They're the highest ranked NCAA team that we have. They're always in the top 5. Matt Thurman came here, and he coached at another Power 5 school. He's probably one of the best coaches in our department because he just sees the whole big picture very well. The team dominated. FIFA just had an unbelievable weekend. Preston Summerhays, and then we get Josele back as we go to the Big 12s.
Yeah.
I almost said Pac-12s.
You wouldn't have been the first.
Week, yeah, and that would have been the first. But last year they won the Pac-12. It was important for them to win the last Pac-12 championship, and now they're getting ready for the first Big 12. At the beginning of every year, I always say what team has the best chance to win a national title here, and it's men's golf again. They're in position to be in position, so now they just got to go for it.
One cool aspect that I think a lot of people who don't follow the men's golf program, women's golf also in this same breath, they only get to play at home once.
Yeah.
So this was their opportunity to show off.
Right.
It's got to be really special for the guys.
Yeah, everybody talks about senior day. I mean, their senior day is
it's
the
opening
same
day and
it's
senior day. Right.
And they get the Papago's awesome. It's a great home. The Thunderbird practice facility is fantastic. For Preston to finish off strong, to get us a team title, that's the only weekend they have. We have one of the best homes for men's golf and women's golf in the country in the Bird. So it was good to see them finish off as strong as they did.
You mentioned how coach was Matt Thurmond was off. He was in Augusta actually over the weekend. So shout out to Thomas Sutton, who filled in, acting head coach, and did a pretty good job.
Wally Pipp. Matt Thurmond is now Wally Pipp. I'm not sure I'd really have Matt coach the Big 12. I might just stick with Thomas and tell Matt to stay at the hotel, but that's just me.
That's just your opinion.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you keep that opinion. You're qualified enough to say it. I'm not going to.
Please make sure this makes the airways. So.
We don't edit, so
No,
this will
good.
be on the airways. One more thing in this first segment, that of course being softball. Wanted to shout them out and what they did over the weekend. 6 wins in a row now. A perfect home, or road week, I should say, at UTEP and at Utah. As well. We were just talking about senior days. They'll have their senior day coming up this upcoming weekend against Baylor, Thursday through Sunday, of course, or Saturday, I should say, due to the holiday on Sunday over at Farrington. They're right at the heat of the top half of the Big 12, third place currently in the Big 12, very competitive conference, and of course, a big weekend to wrap up their home season.
Yeah, and I think something that's real key is if they finish top 5 in the Big 12, they get a first round bye. And, with our pitching, if you only have to win 3 games in the weekend instead of 4, getting the top 5 spot is going to be huge, and they can pretty much cement that this weekend.
Yeah, big series. So, of course, baseball being at home, we'll talk about that as well. But softball over at Club Farrington will be big Thursday through Saturday against Baylor. All right, that does it for segment number 1. We've got a lacrosse show today on the program, so we'll be joined by a couple of guests from the lacrosse program when we come back on the Sun Devil Radio Network. Welcome back to Sun Devil Extra. We told you about a lacrosse lens on the program today, and our next guest is certainly a freshman sensation from Sun Devil Lacrosse. Sierra Ryan joining us out of Frederick, Colorado. Sierra, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So let's talk about your freshman campaign so far. Have been a starter basically from the 4th game on when you've been healthy, one of only 2 freshmen really getting starting action for the squad. It's been a really good year for your team and your program that's continuing to build up and up. What's it been like for you as your first year as a Sun Devil?
I mean, it's been a pleasure, honestly. I think that ASU has exceeded all of my expectations. Going into it, I was nervous, being a freshman and things like that. But I feel like things all fell into place. I think that I'm where I need to be. And it's been just a great time having the opportunity to start, be led by Coach VanThof. She's been really, really awesome. And I've been really enjoying just like being with the team, traveling, getting to kind of put my athletic energy into those games and competing at a high level. It's just such a pleasure.
I'm curious, from where you are now with just 2 games left in the regular season, do you still feel like a freshman?
Honestly, I feel like I do. I feel like there's so much for me to learn. I feel like every day I get a little bit better, just that 1% better, and there's definitely a lot for me to learn, but I feel myself progressing. I feel myself improving, and that is feeling great for me right now, yeah.
how exciting is it for you knowing the trajectory this program's starting to move on? Of course, can surpass last year's win total this weekend. There's still 2 games left, like I said. Knowing that you're just a freshman, you're going to be around here for a few years now. How exciting is it to know what you guys might be able to accomplish in the next few years?
I mean, it's so exciting. I always try to live, in the moment, enjoy the season, but it's hard not to be looking out into the future and just imagining where this program is going and will be. I'm so excited to see how the team kind of continues to mold together, how my freshman class continues to mold into the current team, and just, see just the trajectory of this team continue to go up, breaking records, so many people achieving so many great things. I love to see it. I love to be a part of it, and I'm just excited.
So you said you want to stay in the moment, so let's talk about the moment. The stretch run coming up, of course, senior day this weekend. What is the mentality of this group now coming into the final 2 games of the regular season?
Oh yeah, I mean, as a team, we have really been working hard to kind of have that gritty mentality, coming into every game just like gunning, ready to go. I think that as the season has gone on, we're continuing to just keep progressing and melding together, and that we're going to be peaking at the right times. That's what's most important. Games that have happened in the past, you have to have a goldfish memory and really focus on like the tournament that is coming up, and the other guy on the other sideline that we need to be crushing. So yeah.
Sierra, you're clearly impressive on the field, but you also have quite the impressive background as well off the field. And the student-athlete relationship has kind of been a theme of this program now for the past few weeks, and certainly with yourself. I understand you learned how to code as a 16-year-old. Is that correct?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time just teaching myself how to build stuff. Yeah.
So what have you used with those skills? And I understand that you have a couple of businesses as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I build is really just hobby projects. One of the projects that I was working on called Field Warden has turned into, sort of like a bigger deal than I had expected. It was a hobby project, an app that I was building to solve problems I was dealing with as an athlete with my nutrition. All of a sudden, I realized that I wasn't the only athlete feeling that way. And as of this past weekend, I've won like $13,000 in grant funding to support that project. So a lot of it's just like for fun, doing things I love to do. I love to build, and just like increase my skills both on the field but also mentally, and being able to take the different projects I like to build and my different interests and kind of turn it into a business that's supported by ASU grant funding and by the ASU Entrepreneurship Studios is awesome.
You mentioned the Entrepreneurship Studios, and we're, of course, here in the Student Athlete Venture Studios today in a partnership with GoDaddy. I'm curious, as a freshman, but obviously with such an impressive background, as you were just talking about, what's that experience been like as a student athlete here at ASU, even in just your first year?
Oh my gosh, the resources are just outstanding. There's just more than I could have ever imagined available here, and I know there's so many other things that I'm just not even aware of. I know I'm just scratching the surface, and I've just really enjoyed having the opportunity to get to know a lot of the people who are working under the athletic department, under the entrepreneurship programs, even like professors in my classes. It's nice to get to know all these people because they're really here to like help, and they're really here to follow you along the way and support you. So I just feel so supported. I feel like there's so many resources I'm just scratching the surface with, and as I continue out through my 4 years here, just continuing to be involved and to continue to contribute. So yeah.
Well, Sierra, I'd say it's very clear you have a very bright future ahead of you, not only on the field but off the field as well. Obviously, a couple more exciting games to come up to end the regular season and years to come in the maroon and gold as well. Congratulations on all your success thus far, and good luck in the future.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We'll be back with more on Sun Devil Extra.
Yep, go Devils.
Coach Taryn VanThof Puls is our next guest on Sun Devil Extra as we continue on with our lacrosse segments today on the program. Third year as the head coach here at ASU. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So pretty exciting season so far for your squad. Of course, we were just talking to Sierra and what she's done as a freshman, but you're 1 win away from double digits and, of course, setting a new program record as well, or right there in terms of wins and also in terms of breaking the wins mark from last year. You can do that this weekend. What have you thought about the season so far?
I think it's been a great season of growth. I mean that from an individual perspective as well as a team perspective as we've navigated through, some tough ups and downs through seasons. But I think our kids are getting better and better every single day, and I think that's exactly where we want to be right now, right? Haven't peaked yet, and so getting to that performance is going to be huge.
So you came to Tempe from the University of Florida, longtime power, and now you're in a situation where you're conference rivals with Florida.
Correct.
You probably didn't think that was possible when you left, right?
No, not a chance. But it's an awesome opportunity for us. I think Florida is perennial powerhouse, top 5, top 10 year after year. And, you know, we talk all the time about, they were on the schedule before we flipped into the Big 12. And in order to be the best, you have to play the best. And so to keep giving ourselves the opportunity to be at the very top, we will always, you know, compete against top contenders.
In terms of your time there, what are some, I'm sure there's so many things you were able to take from being an assistant coach and moving on into your own program now. And of course, you've been here for a few years, but what are some of those things that you've found that you've instilled in your program that maybe you didn't even think you would be?
Yeah, you know, I think I learned a lot from head coach Mandy O'Leary. She just gave me a ton of, you know, she gave me the reins in terms of a lot of experience to learn through her. There was things that like I pulled along right away. I think unique in Florida in the age of that program was very similar to when I got here. So when I got to Florida, they were about 6 years in, and when I arrived here, no different. And so I was able to pull a lot of my experiences in growing a program and recruiting to a program of growth from what I had done at Florida.
I'm curious in terms of the personnel on this year's team. I mean, there have been some big-time performances. Of course, we just talked to Sierra. She's on the back line as a freshman. I'll ask you about her in a moment. But in terms of some of the individual performances you've had, not only individually game by game, but also just in terms of the season as a whole, it's been really fun to watch your team play.
Yeah, I mean, from season to career, you've got Katie Valley, our goalkeeper, who hit 600 saves, which is unbelievable. Anna Viglione just broke the season draw control record, which my assistant now, Zoe, broke last season. You've got Jordan Bihar. She broke the assist record. She's on the verge for breaking our season points record. Tegan Ing broke goals. Like, we are moving in the right direction. We are certainly taking off.
You mentioned Tegan and what she's been able to do. Obviously, everyone looks at that record. That's kind of the one that sticks out. But what's it been like coaching her?
Tegan is like a fierce competitor. Every day she's giving you her absolute best. It does not waver, and I think that goes to show you in her consistency in game. I think, you know, the last 5 games she's had 5+ goals, and that shows how hard she works at practice day in and day out.
In terms of that senior leadership, looking at someone like a Sierra Ryan, who we were just talking to, it seems like she's pretty mature for a freshman.
Yeah.
But how is that, you know, the older, more experienced groups in this program trying to take in the younger underclassmen and build them up a bit?
Yeah, you know, I think the seniors lead by example, but I think our freshmen came in challenging them off the get-go in terms of like how hard they were going to work and how ready they were going to be to, you know, step on field. And we have a couple of them that have opportunities, you know, to get on field, Sierra being one of them. But we knew Sierra was going to do that from the start. She's a very driven kid, both on and off field, and so you're seeing that in some of her success.
Coach, I know you're locked in on the moment, but you brought up how there are some parallels from your time at Florida to where you are now in the age of this program. I'm curious the heights that you think this program can grow to. Of course, we've seen improvement over the years that you've been here in itself, and obviously from the infancy of this program in general. What could Arizona State Lacrosse become?
What will Arizona State Lacrosse become?
I think
is the better way to put it. I think, you know, you've watched our trajectory over the last few years. I mean, conference championships and NCAA tournaments. Like that's the boat we want to put ourselves in, and that's the direction we're rowing right now.
I like that. What is, not what will. I like that. So in terms of this upcoming weekend, Senior Day coming up, of course, Florida is the last of the year, but you've got Senior Day, San Diego State coming up this weekend. I know that's always a special time.
It is.
To honor the seniors, but also play in front of your home fans for the last time this year. What are kind of the emotions as the coach going into one final home meeting? Yeah,
you know, I think Senior Day is a great day to celebrate, not just our seniors, but, you know, what they've done and what the program's done during their 4 years. So we do Senior Day festivities post game just because of how heightened and emotional it can be. So we try to get through our competition and then really celebrate that senior class. And with 10, that's a very large class with a very large impact.
Saturday at noon against San Diego State. So if you're around it in the area, of course, it's a busy weekend with athletic events going on. Softball's right there, though, so you can bounce back and forth. San Diego State, Saturday at noon. Coach, like you said, I think it's only a matter of when, not if, this program continues to grow and grow and grow. And thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Go Devils.
We'll be joined with Doug Tammaro to wrap up the program when we come back. Back here on Sun Devil Extra, presented by Spring Hill Suites, Phoenix, Scottsdale. Braiden Bell rejoined by Doug Tammaro on the program today, filling in for one Graham Rossini. And Doug, I want to talk about Back Your Devils Week,
Yeah.
which we had an initiative promoting that a couple of weeks ago while it was going on. Of course, the results are now in, and it was a really successful campaign this year. Records were broke, really impressive, and shows off the energy the fan base has right now.
Yeah, I think it's a great time to be a Sun Devil fan. Wherever we go, people are fired up, and I think it's, Graham took everything in May and just ran with it. He knew what we needed. He was blessed with a 11-3 football run. I mean, let's be honest, that's timing is everything. But I think our fan base has really stepped up. I think our fan base has been educated, and they're learning that it does mean investing. And you can invest any way you want. I have a friend of mine who's a softball dad, and when he heard Kenny Dillingham get hired, you got to activate the Valley. Well, he couldn't afford college football tickets, and he doesn't have an interest in college. But he went out and bought 2 softball season tickets. That was his way of doing it. There are a million things that someone can do to help impact Sun Devil athletics. When Molly Miller got hired, if someone was fired up about it, season tickets were about $150, or $75 each. I've had about 10 friends, that kind of called them out. They said, "Oh, cool, you tweeted that you're excited for Molly Miller. How about dumping $150 and buy season? If you can, I don't know what you can afford."
Yeah.
And they did. My friend Mike McNally is a supporter of Sun Devil athletics through the years, and this energized him. And he said, "You know what? I'm going to do that." And he bought 2 season tickets. There's a million ways you can help, and it doesn't all have to be NIL. It doesn't have to be buying season tickets. Sun Devil Club. Just find a way to help us out, and we'll appreciate it.
When we had Vince Volpe on the show talking about the impact that those donations do make, regardless of the sport, they are impactful. And like you said, it is a good time to be a Sun Devil.
Their office worked really hard. Our office in media relations really worked hard in the social media blitz and making sure people aware. Because March is hard. There's a lot of stuff going on. But there was definitely a lot out there about give back to the Devils and making sure we got it right.
Speaking of a lot going on, a big baseball series coming up over the weekend at Phoenix Muni. We already talked about softball in the first segment, but baseball, they'll be taking on Texas Tech, who's a perennial power in the Big 12, a little bit down this year, but the baseball program, much needed series to get back on good footing Thursday through Saturday again because of the holiday. Red Raiders and Sun Devils, it was a record-breaking crowd the last time ASU was at home against U of A. Should be more good crowds this weekend, we would hope, in a very important series for ASU baseball.
So we got our next 2 series are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, BYU series as well. We have 6 games coming up here at home, Big 12 games. The conference crown is still up for grabs. I mean, no one's running away with it. So it'd be no better time than to run off some wins here at home.
Especially, to do it at home. It was a tough weekend at Cincinnati, losing 2 of 3 dramatic games really all throughout the weekend, but back at home against Texas Tech, hopefully a good series coming up for Willie Bloomquist and company. We were talking about men's golf. How about women's golf? Big 12 championships coming up this weekend as well in Houston Oaks, so best of luck to that squad. Of course, we talk about men's golf with a chance of winning a national title, women's golf, one of those programs pretty much every year as well, and a chance to compete in their first ever Big 12 championships coming up this week.
Missy Farquet won a national title as a player, assistant coach, and a head coach, and Duke probably had that graphic ready to go at the Final Four for John Shire, but Missy Farquet is better than John Shire.
Yep.
So hopefully they can do that as well.
I don't think Missy would have blown that lead to Houston. I'm sorry, Duke. I'm not trying to catch any strays. They're like cousins. We're both Devils.
Wow.
I know. I'm sorry. Now time for a great segment. Speaking of stealing thunder a little bit, this is normally a Graham Rossini segment, but here we go. It's the Sun Devil for Life of the week, and since Doug is filling in, no better man than to fill in for Doug. Who you got?
So I ran into Lawrence Guy this week, and Lawrence was in town in Beau Moose. He's friends with Beau Moose. He'd probably pick better friends, but we'll let Lawrence figure that out. Lawrence Guy, I say, might be the most underrated professional Sun Devil across all sports. He's played, I think it's 12 years in the NFL. He played for a Super Bowl champion. Coming off Super Bowl championships, he was the captain of the New England Patriots. Like, think about what you got to be the captain of the New England Patriots. He's been so involved in his community. New England Patriots Community Man of the Year. Lawrence had a learning disability that everybody knew about, and when he was here, he got after it. And he's just a wonderful family guy. He was here for the weekend, caught up with him. He ended up signing with the Bengals late in the year, played with them for a little bit. But what an NFL career. I mean, 12 years, and no one really realized it because those guys in the trenches,
right?
You know, people forget about. It's like,
yeah.
Can't forget about CJ Fight. Like we talk about Scat and Sam and Jordan Tyson, but like in my brain, I'm like, CJ Fight, that's a dude, right?
Yeah.
Lawrence has been that dude in the NFL. He was that dude in the NFL for 12 years, and it was just great to see him hanging out and enjoying everything and taking it in. His story is one that at the time, a lot of people, Sun Devils, were new. He kind of forgot because, you know, he played in the NFL and it's gone on, but it was so good to see him on a practice field.
Yeah, the longevity over a decade
unbelievable.
in the NFL, in the trenches.
You know, people say you got to be a real pro. You got to be a real pro. Well, this is a guy, family guy, great family, getting back here, Super Bowl champion. Like I said, I don't know of many other professional Sun Devils. Ches Reavie, Paul Casey in the golf. You know, I'm sure there's a couple baseball players I'm missing. Underrated professional career for a Sun Devil. He's got to be top 2. I'm not sure who would be 1.
Yeah, that says a lot right there. That says a lot, and a great first installment. Doug, this is your first time on the program. You did pretty good. You want to come back sometime?
Yeah, anytime.
Okay.
Sean Crespin got to pay me.
Well, me and you both. I'm waiting on my checks. I don't know. Doug, thanks for joining us today. A big thank you as well to the Lacrosse program for joining us. Really fun episode today, and we'll talk to you again next week for another edition of Sun Devil Extra.